What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Today we are talking about the first strand sword inside of Destiny, the Thin Precipice. Now this is the taken version of that Reckoning just in case sword, which is a power solar, which comes from the H.E.L.M as well. But this one right here, being our only strand, has some very fun and interesting roles in the PvE realm. Definitely not much of a PvP weapon, but we'll still go over what I think is the God roll for it inside of that, but definitely have a couple different fun options for the PvE realm and that strand synergy. Now, before we get into the God rolls for this weapon, we got Unsated Hunger. For its origin trait, increases handling, reload, and stability when no abilities are fully charged. Swords gain increased guard resistance and charge rate, so that guard resistance allows us to take more damage. It's a higher damage resistance, and then the charge rate is that energy that it takes us to guard comes back a little bit faster, so this is actually very nice for this sword inside of the PvE realm especially. Now, starting out with the Thin Precipice right here for PvP, like I said, this thing definitely isn't that great. If you're going to use a sword, definitely go with an exotic or a caster frame or something that has that eager edge like the other half where you can just zoom to them, but it has a very interesting role that comes on these swords that is okay in the Crucible. First off, we got that vortex frame with the 10 impact. This will be PvE as well because it is our only masterwork that we have. Now, for our abilities in the first slot, we got the Blade of Jagged Edge, increased damage at the cost of sword ammo. It really doesn't matter what goes in here, in my personal opinion, for Crucible, because we're not getting a full ammo capacity, so just went with the most damage in my personal opinion. Now, in the second column, again, Burst Guard is what I went with because it has that high resistance, low endurance, so you're going to be rushing somebody with this sword, so you're going to be able to block the damage really quickly with this Burst Guard, and it's going to block a lot of the damage instead of only blocking half of it, let's say, but being able to block for longer time. That's for like longer ranges or the PvE realm. So Burst Guard, you're all built to block and then just charge right at them and get that defeat. Now, for me, like I said, Crucible, this thing is like maybe at a 2 out of 5 for a score. It's a very average sword inside of the Crucible, but these two perks in Valiant Charge as well as counterattack make it all right. Receiving damage while guarded temporary increases that sword lung range and for a longer duration, so it pairs with that Burst Guard. You block most of the damage but still take a little bit, so this will proc, and then you're able to just block with the damage and get that lunge range and just absolutely annihilate guardians, which in turn, blocking the attack immediately after guarded increases the damage for an improved duration. So this helps maybe with a super attack because you're going to one-shot most guardians anyway inside of the Crucible with a sword, so that little bit of extra damage is nice, but it all comes into that little bit of a blocking that we get with Burst Guard, which will proc Valiant Charge as well as counterattack, which gives us that longer range and increased damage for this sword, so it pairs very well with just pushing somebody and getting that annihilation very quickly. Now, when we move on to the PvE realm, this thing has a couple different roles in our enhanced traits. Again, obviously, we have that impact to give us the stats you see down in the right-hand column. Now, for me, I went with the Jagged Edge again in this column. You could go with something like Tempered, gives you a couple more in the ammo magazine, but you have 65 damage, so it doesn't really matter, kind of between these two in my personal opinion. Now, for guard, I went with Heavy Guard on this, so we have that high defense, low charge rate, which is where that origin trait definitely comes into play. Plus, you don't really get over 30 or 40 for a charge rate, so 10 doesn't seem that bad, and we're able to tank a lot of damage with having a decently high efficiency, so we're able to hold out that damage resistance by guarding for a decently long time with Heavy Guard. Now for enhanced traits, my personal god roll that I went with after testing a little bit was Relentless Strike with Hatchling. So we're going to get those rapid defeats with this sword, creating threadlings, and they have improved handling. So we're going to be able to switch on and off this weapon a little bit faster. So this pairs perfectly with something like the Swarmers and the Warlock, creating threadlings everywhere. Plus just in general, that strand synergy and hatchlings, this thing is super fun, even not on a strand subclass. Now that relentless is when we're landing 3 light attack hits, it improves the time that we grant that ammo, so we're getting a couple of those little ammo packs back, about 2-3 shots every single time we're getting these light attacks in succession, so it's able to just chain hits as well as creating hatchlings. Now in this third column, I have the option over here with Tireless Blade as well, which is another way that we are getting heavy ammo back when we get those power sword final blows, and Unrelenting, so it could trigger that health regen or a little bit of health on getting those defeats. In the Crucible we could have used this as well, but definitely not as good as in the PvE realm when you're continuously wiping out ads. You can use Unrelenting as well in this combo, so you could use Unrelenting with Hatchling or something like that, but I personally like Relentless Strikes better. And then in the fourth column, like I said, Hatchling is definitely what I am going with, but we do have the option of Collective Action, which again pairs with the other subclasses, so we can collect Fire Sprite, Void Breaches, Stasis Shards, Ionic Traces, or the Strand Tangles, destroying them, where we do get this thing to stack up some damage. So that is also very nice with this weapon, is it is super versatile. Now we also have that Golden Tricorn, where we get that damage increase when we're using our Strand subclass, so another way of that Strand synergy. And last we have Chain Reaction, which is actually pretty cool to see with a Strand Sword having that nice green strand explosion everywhere. But I personally liked Hatchling a little bit better, just because you can create those threadlings, and I love threadlings in PvE, where this was just situational when there was a lot of ads. It was nice for a nice quick ad clear burst, if you will, but this was more consistent with doing a little bit of extra damage when we got ads around, and just played more to my style, so that's why I went with Hatchling instead of Chain Reaction. This weapon has a lot of different roles on it for sure. A very fun sword in the PvE realm. I'm giving it like a good 4.8, 4.9 out of 5, so it is versatile, like I said. Hatchlings, Chain Reaction, everything in that realm, especially with that Collective Actions, are a new perk from this season. So get to crafting this. Hopefully you can snag it, especially since we got those tier 7 rewards in Deep Dive. Very hefty on the rewards, plus it just, you can get them from the H.E.L.M as well as those Deep Dive engrams. So thank you guys for that support. I truly appreciate it. Y'all have been killing on the channel lately, and it means a lot to me. So thank you guys again, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.